Hi, everyone. This is Gary Berman, the host of the Cyber Hero Adventure Show, with an absolute privilege to be spending time with Richard Steinen, the founder of IT Harvest. And from my personal opinion, I think many others, the leading analyst in the cybersecurity and AI ecosystems. And when Richard and I were recently talking about some of his new research, we thought let's share it with people who are incredibly interested in this rapidly evolving ecosystem. And we're going to be covering a range of topics, focusing on the business aspects of AIs, the vendors, the providers, the rapidly changing economic situation within the AI ecosystem as well. And so, Richard, we can jump in.
All right.
We really want everyone to be using the chat function in the bottom of the Zoom. I'm sure you're all too familiar with it, but please feel free to ask questions and we'll intersperse them when we can. If there are any questions that we're unable to get to because of time or things like that, Richard will for sure, follow up with you. And so thanks so much for being here. And Richard, take it away.
Thank you, Gary. And I really appreciate your coming on to be my master of ceremony. It's always hard to do these things all on your own. And when I just recall that, here you are, Gary, who's somebody who's presented at the White House, who's presented at Gartner conferences and got a standing ovation. You're just somebody that everybody should get to know. So if you don't know Gary Berman, follow him on LinkedIn and watch his great content as he runs the Cyber Heroes comic book series. We're going to talk today about the state of the AI security industry. The thing that I realize is completely missing from my presentation, and on purpose, is the state of AI attacks. Right, so that's always, I don't know, since I've been at Gartner, there was always two sides of what you present on. And one is, oh my God, the end of the world is coming because AIs get so smart and deep fakes, etc. That's a great topic for another day. But I spent all my time tracking all these companies. So we are going to talk today about those companies, where they've come in a very, very short time frame. Um, and frankly, most of them are purely startups. We're going to talk about the funding that's going into them, which is quite tremendous, and some of the big M&A that's already happened, and of course, interspersed with my analysis all the time. So let's kick off. First of all, how to state in as strident terms as possible just how fast this industry is growing and how exciting it is. 18 months ago, we didn't have an AI security category of vendors. So, and in that time frame, we started the AI security category, and I started putting the companies in under things like guardrails and model protection, model testing, things like that. And there are now 160 active vendors. So these are vendors that are seeking financing and going to customers and growing and hiring people. At the same time, the waters have gotten a little muddy in that, as usual, when there's a hot thing, and I could just see if you were a startup who had some really cool new, I don't know, hardware security module approach to the world, and you're going to do virtualized HSMs and all the rest. Every time you talk to an investor, they'd say, "Well, what's your AI strategy?" It'd be very frustrating to have a pure tech thing like encryption or post-quantum encryption, and then have investors and all of your friends starting AI security companies. So, needless to say, when we do a search on our database of all 11,000 some cybersecurity products, 91% of new security solutions coming from companies founded after 2022 mention AI. So AI is taking over. And if you went to Black Hat, you saw it. And sure enough, all of the big vendors, Fortinets, Cisco's, etc., all have big banners claiming that they're AI everything. And of course, Palo Alto is included in that. Now, mind you, some of them, Palo Alto especially, are acquiring AI capabilities. So they are justified in marketing to it. But it's going to be just like zero trust. It's going to be how do you filter out the things that are zero trust and the things that say they're zero trust. It's going to be really, really difficult. Um, so just let's look at the segments that we've been able to define so far. SOC automation is the biggest segment. There's about, like I said, there's 160 total vendors. I think I counted 36 SOC automation solutions, so a quarter. Um, Interestingly enough, guardrails and governance come next. Governance, of course, is, to deal with the side of the house, the audit side of the house, the compliance side of the house, where companies are getting demands for, and I've seen this myself when we're selling our subscriptions to the dashboard. A large enterprise will say you must, attest to the amount of AI used in your product. So we have to describe, because there's a lot of AI in our product. Of course, many products don't have any AI, so it's easy to attest that you don't have any, but you still have to make that attestation. That's the governance side. How do you know if you've got AI in your enterprise? How do you know who's got a private subscription to OpenAI or Anthropic, or the one I've been testing out this past week is K2 Think, which is a way cool one. Technically out of Dubai, but if you look at it, it's all the authors are from China. So if you want to govern that, you have to discover when people are using that. And then you want to govern how they use it too. So it starts falling over into the guardrail side. And the guardrail side is pure and simple. Oh my God, this stuff is scary and people are empowered and they're doing amazing things. We got to stop that, right? This is classic security thinking. But it's also a market opportunity because everybody thinks this way, CISOs in particular. So sell a product that will, monitor how people are using AI access inside your organization. A really, really big thing inside universities who are just frightened to death by AI. They just think it's the end of the world. It's going to destroy everything. They may be right, but it's going to destroy them because they're not adapting to AI, because AI is easily the best teaching and training tool ever to come about. So the guardrail solutions take multiple approaches, but they look at the prompts so that somebody can't cut and paste, internal financial documents or critical healthcare records, things like that. You don't want them being submitted to an AI. Now, mind you, if you've got a contract with OpenAI or Anthropic or any of the other ones, there is a little tick box that says they will not use your data. But there's also the fact that they have records of all the data. So once a employee uploads some sort of medical record to get some analysis of it, that alone is evidently a HIPAA violation. Though it's not been tested in courts and haven't seen any enforcement activity like that, it does give rise to, oh my gosh, we need to stop people from doing that. So it's a little bit, I think of it a lot as DLP for AI. And then the model security section is those like Protect AI that will build those defenses around your model. There are AI firewalls. There are AI pen testing capabilities to make sure your AI can't be abused or have prompt injection used against it to jailbreak it, etc. There's data masking for AI. So data masking, of course, is old segment of the security industry where database administrators would need live data to develop their applications on. So you'd grab a big set of customer data, and then you change all the names, change all the social security numbers, and change all the credit card numbers with random stuff. And that was data masking. Now, how do you give data to an AI in such a way that it can draw inferences from it without actually turning over all of your data to the AI? So we had to encounter that early on. We were embedding our data into OpenAI, But the one thing that we didn't want to do was create a massive competitor with us. So IT Harvest, of course, has a database of all the vendors put into categories and subcategories, which is something that nobody else has, right? I did that personally and it took me 4,000 hours to do it. I don't want to give that away so that the next version of ChatGPT knows categories of companies. So we simply change the name of the company to some random string and submit it, and then use the analysis that comes back, with some of the other data that we've asked it for, um, and then unmask it as we do so. So now we can put it in the right place in our database. That's great, but I always thought GPT-5 would be smart enough to figure out our masking, and it probably is. So it's not a long-term solution as these get stronger and stronger. There's a big set of other, and that's because smart people are applying AI to every single segment of cybersecurity. So there are multiple solutions for AI-based pen testing. So you're going to automate pen testing, but now it's going to be custom for your environment, et cetera, and we'll be able to morph as it goes through the pen testing. There's AI for vulnerability management, which is perfect use case, right? A whole bunch of things that could be automated. You just don't have enough people to do that automation. So and I'm sure that's why there's soon going to be many, many more than 160 vendors. Let's quickly walk through some of the rising AI security stars. These are ones that are growing quickly, right? Faster than the rest. Legion is a SOC automation solution I'll tell you about. The Legion has grown 2,900% so far this year. So we show it at 1,000% here, but I just checked the numbers because they started the year with one employee on LinkedIn, and they took in their 38 million in funding in July, but they had been hiring before that, probably because they were getting traction. And I highly recommend you get a demo from Legion because it's easy to understand that traction. So very cool browser extension that looks over, one of your tier 3 analysts' shoulders, and as they go through repetitive tasks, dealing with customers locked out from their accounts, and it'll go and do the exact same analysis and check all the same tools and run trace routes or whatever, and it'll watch as the tier 3 analyst does that. But then you can put it on trial mode and you let it run on the next case. Pulls the ticket and starts looking at it and uses all the same steps, but it's inferring and doing the thinking that you need. And then finally coming down to a resolution, which is usually change the password and send an email to the user. But then you can find when you're comfortable with that, for watching it do it for several cases, you can just hide that tab and let it run. And it's running in the background all the time. So you can quickly see how powerful it is. And that's just for, SOC automation tasks. You could actually use companies like Legion or Quiller, does very, very similar thing. You could use it for tons of different things to automate your processes. Kevlar, Prophet, Superalign, Noma, all companies in these various areas that are growing at these incredible rates. Now, mind you, notice how small they are, right? They're startups, and they've taken in a bunch of money. Though some, like Superalign, one I just talked to in the Netherlands called Imperum, have grown to 40, 50 people with no funding raised at all. And that's because they're getting early customers because they've got such a obvious value proposition right off the bat. Orascape has been winning awards across the board. We put Orascape into our top 50, under 50 last year because they were growing so quickly. And now they're, if they continue this growth, they will actually be candidates for the IT Harvest Cyber 150 next year. One other thing is federated learning. There's actually a handful of federated learning solutions, Flower being one of them. It's obviously growing at a tremendous rate. And this is the idea that there's going to be a bunch of people involved in the learning and training of an AI model, and how can you share data, that way, or share data safely with all those people. And then Expo is easily the one to watch in the pen testing arena, or offensive security, as it's sometimes called. So super valuable as always, to watch the money and see where it's going. To date, there's been just over $2 billion invested in these 160 vendors. Some have had multiple rounds. That's the 230 rounds. And 25% of that was raised so far just this year. And then on top of that, of course, there have been 8 acquisitions. Some of them didn't get a lot of attention when, like, Emporio was acquired last December. But then all the rest were acquired so far this year. Protect AI is the big one, with that maybe $650 million acquisition from Palo Alto Networks. That was only in April that happened. Variant Labs was less, and Prompt Security was back into the 200, 300 range. And then Calypso AI, and then just this week, today's Thursday, so I think 2 days ago, both Lacura, acquired by Checkpoint, and Pangea, acquired by CrowdStrike. So you start thinking about the the big companies, and you start thinking, well, what's the play for other big companies? Will IBM acquire an AI security company? IBM, the owner of Watson, a big security play in and of their own. Will they break down and say, we got to catch up, we got to do the new thing? Were you trying to interject there, Gary?
No, I'm just nodding in agreement. And we have a bunch of great questions whenever you think you want to do that.
Okay, yeah, I'll get through the slides, and then we'll just address each of the questions.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it was funny. I met Protect AI. I was doing something with the demo forum, and Ian, the founder CEO, and I was quite amazed at his story, because I'll be very suspicious of a company that comes to me and says, we're the AI leader, right? And y'all know who I'm talking about, but there's one who's been around for 8 years. No, more than that. And all they talk about is AI, AI, AI. And yet you talk to their customers and you go, no, you're really email security, aren't you? If any company says they're an AI company, or AI first, or AI native is the term I'm hearing, and they were formed before November 30th of 2022, you got to prove that to me, right? You got to prove to me that you knew what was going to happen with OpenAI. Because November 30th, 2022 is when ChatGPT was made available. And you recall back then, everybody tried it right away. It was just blowing up social media. I tried it the very first day. We had access to the playground, so I could play around with it there. Well, it turns out that the team at Protect AI, one, had a lot of AI security experience from AWS days, but two, had been watching what was going on and realized exactly what was going to happen when ChatGPT came out, and got their funding like 2 weeks after that November 30th. They took in a total of $130 million, only got to 133 employees before getting acquired by Palo Alto for maybe 650 million, at least 500 million. So it shows that strategics are willing to take big bets, right? Because they understand how huge this is, right? If you think about it, I think we saw that OpenAI has 700 million users. I don't know how many of them are paying users, but it's enough for them to do billions in revenue. For a company that's only been around it's only had this product for 2.5 years.
Yeah, I think, Richard, they had something like 11 billion in revenue. I saw the CFO on CNBC, and it was some exponential growth, like for
Yeah.
1 billion to like 11, something like that in a
Yeah.
short time.
Imagine just the plumbing and taking all that money and getting it into your bank accounts. Got to be a challenge. But you learn on the fly with these companies. Um, so protecting AI models was low-hanging fruit that the founders of Protect AI could see. That's the name. Um, but um, it's not the exciting part, as I've been pointing out, right? The exciting part is the application of AI to all the security. Um, and the question here is, will, this big acquisition distract Palo Alto from other opportunities? Palo Alto is already working on their own guardrails solution, right? They had announced at RSA the previous year that they were all in and were developing their own products. They had announced their own products, and here they made an acquisition. So there will be more acquisitions for sure. They have to fill out their capabilities quickly. And they've kind of set the price range that they're willing to pay at 650 range. Prompt Security was acquired by SentinelOne. If you think about it, it's a guardrails kind of solution. If they took in 23 million and sold purportedly for 250 million, that's a 10x return for investors. Fantastic. Um, and just look at that growth curve. I mean, this is users of our platform know these growth curves, and when you see that growth curve, this is a company to watch, right? Because they're, in this case, yeah, they got 23 million in funding, so they're applying that well. But generally, in these times, people are doing hiring when the demand for their products justify it. So, like I said, guardrails are nice, but what about SOC automation? Bunch of vendors in this space. Um, I follow, as many as I can. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to 7AI yet, but I've talked to most of the rest of these. Some of them will actually go after the level three, tier three SOC analyst role. In other words, they're going to do it all. They're going to investigate and do the forensics, figure out what happened, and then take actions. It could be simple as a TCP IP reset, or it could be update firewall rules, and certainly would be sequester a machine and clean it up if they got the data from SentinelOne. This is the space that to me is the most exciting, right? This has got the opportunity for disrupting so many segments of our industry. If you think about it, we've always had two sides of defensive security. And one is just stop bad stuff from happening. That's where firewalls, that's where antivirus used to be. The other is let's detect and then figure out what to do and then respond. And the trouble with the detection and response side of things is that it generates more work for you. Gives you, maybe millions of detections for the couple of things that need a response. So costs just keep going up. Along comes AI, and all of a sudden you just say, hey, AI, I want 100% triage. I don't care what generated that stupid alert. I want you to tell me right now if it's false positive, false negative, something I can ignore. We've looked at this yesterday and it's nothing, move on, which is 99% of all alerts. But I want you to highlight the ones that I have to do something about right now. Tell me which one is one where you pull the alarm and shut off access, like Lockheed Martin did in 2010 when somebody tried to log in with a secure ID token that was spoofed. We need that level, and if we get to that level, which I suspect we are, the whole XDR, SIM, MDR space is going to be completely disrupted, which means great opportunities, but huge challenges for the legacy vendors. And legacy, I mean, some of these companies are only 10, 15 years old, but still, that's where they're going to be. So I'm watching the big players, right? I'm watching what they're doing, right? Because they're challenged, right? So the Qualys, Tenable's, Rapid7, what are all these players going to do, especially if they can't afford to buy one of these startups? Luckily, there are a lot of them. And you can look overseas if you don't want to pay the ridiculous amounts that U.S. or Israeli-based startups get. So I look at, in particular, I was walking down the the big aisle that leads you into the conference center at Black Hat in Vegas and Mandalay Bay, and huge sign from Splunk. And its message was solely um, build the SOC of your dreams. That's Splunk's messaging at Black Hat this year. Everybody else on the show floor was talking about AI. Splunk's talking about spending more money to build the SOC of your dreams, right? So you need, obviously, a SOC to them is a big, huge data lake, access through their proprietary query language in order to do your threat hunting. All the traditional stuff that we were doing 10, 15 years ago, as well as 10 or 15 months ago. But all that's changing. So that's when it occurred to me, Splunk has to stay relevant. Splunk is going to acquire one of these SOC automation companies. They have to do it fast. And the valuation could be as high as $1 billion. So don't be surprised when it happens. If it does happen, remember where you heard about it first. If it doesn't happen, just forget about it. That's the secret of making great predictions. Um, watch these solutions as they go from talking about being a tier one solution. We're going to triage alerts, right? Make your job easier. We're going to be a co-pilot for the analyst. All these things that are indicating that they're early. But watch as they get to William Gibson neuromancer level of, hey, yeah, we don't use humans anymore because machines are so much faster. Look at now applying AI to vulnerability management. I think there's a goldmine opportunity for the biggest pain for CISOs. Every CISO I talk to, I always test. So, do you do vulnerability management because it improves your security posture or because you have to? And it's always because we have to. We wouldn't spend a penny on this. It's a waste of time, right? It's every time you do a scan, you find the same 10,000 vulnerabilities. And every one you patch, which takes, a team a couple days to get all the servers lined up and tested and ready to go with the new patch, there's new ones, right? So it's a never-ending problem. What if AI were able to solve that? Same with the future of red teaming. AI-powered offensive security tools are going to disrupt the pen testing world. They already are. And we're already moving towards automated pen testing, right? So you didn't hire a team to pen test your exposed network assets. You just turned on automated tools that would follow playbooks. That's great. But now add intelligence to that, and you're going to have constant red teaming going on, and then there'll be a blue team on the inside watching what's going on and reacting and improving your security posture. So that makes me very, very positive for the future of cybersecurity and the future of our industry. Just a quick pitch for IT Harvest. So we maintain the only database of cybersecurity vendors and cybersecurity products. We help founders who are looking to exit. We put them together with the right strategic acquirers. You can always reach us at itharvest.com. Check out the dashboard, and if you are interested in that level of data to use for your own business, we'll give you a demo, talk through your use case, etc. Keep your eyes on Harvest IQ, which is in preparation for a relaunch, which is going to blow your mind when you see what it can do. But it'll be a low-cost way to take advantage of all of our data on 11,340 products. And then this week we announced that we're partnering with Accelitrex. So we're on Accelitrek's. It's a combination between a community and a marketplace. So it's basically where people can find the IT Harvest dashboard, but market experts such as yourselves can be members and say, hey, I think that the company XYZ would benefit from using IT Harvest dashboard. You can make that referral through there and share in the revenue that Accelitrex collects.